Okay, no silly jokes this week, it's serious business. It's a tough world out there, and some of us just aren't as thick-skinned as others, so I decided to make this week's video a little helping hand for anyone who ever feels a bit snowed under when it comes to personal problems. Now, there's something about me that I haven't told you guys yet, but I feel like now is the right time, because hopefully my experiences with this can help anyone else going through a similar thing. For a long time now, I've actually suffered from depression, which has got worse in recent years due to many things, including a chronic illness, which I'm not even going to go into because it's a long story. But basically, I got to a point where even the task of just living from day to day became really hard, and a lot of the time I didn't even want to exist. It took more effort than I thought I could give to just live each day as it came, and when you spend enough time feeling like that, you realise that something's gotta give. And that's when the doctors stopped trying to cure my illness and started trying to cure the depression it caused instead. For the past few months, as well as taking these scary antidepressants, I've been going to therapy sessions, which I didn't like the idea of when the doctors first told me to go, but it actually turned out to be quite a good move. For a start, therapists aren't as judgmental and condescending as you think they are, or at least I thought they were until I met mine. They're more like a good friend you can just dump all your emotional crap on, and then in return, they give you a new way to look at that pile of crap that makes it seem not that big after all. But also, along with all the educational materials they give you, they provide you with some genuinely helpful techniques that introduce your mind to a new way of thinking and help you develop a better way of processing your problems so that they don't feel so overwhelming. And the best one that my therapist gave me was to start a diary. In this little black book, I've been documenting every instance in which my illness or my depression has affected my life since the start of December 2013. And it has been an eye-opener. At first, I absolutely hated the idea of recording my mental and physical failure in a book, because let's face it, it sounds fucking depressing, and for the first couple of weeks I felt so shit writing all of this down. Look at this one, December 5th. I had a sharp pain while out in Manchester with friends. It was bad enough that I was almost doubled over and could barely walk. I felt more worry and panic than usual and thought about going home early, which made me more worried about travelling on the train while in pain. December 11th and 12th. Got the flu, which made me feel very depressed, mainly because I struggle enough when normal, never mind when there's extra illness on top of it. December 22nd, that's the day before my birthday. Became very depressive and pessimistic following a conversation about the future and the difficulty of making a career as a young person. Felt very angry and irritable. And it gets worse. Had the worst pain since starting this diary, which lasted most of the day and prevented me from going to work. Felt suddenly depressed for no reason and just slept because I didn't want to feel anything anymore. Felt very depressed for 3 days, getting worse until on the last day I hated being around people and couldn't stop spontaneously bursting into tears. And at first, every new entry just made me feel even worse, thinking, oh yeah, fantastic, let's write a massive book about how much of a retard I am. But then my therapist told me to think about my lowest moments and how badly I coped before I started therapy, and then compare it to what I recorded in the diary, and that's when I noticed a difference. Whether it was the antidepressants or the therapy or a combination of both, something in the way I think about things must have changed, because looking at this diary as a timeline of incidents, they get less and less frequent the more I record them. At the beginning of this diary, I had what I considered to be a serious episode every single day, but gradually they get more and more spaced out and I start having longer periods of feeling totally fine in between episodes. So there's a 6-day gap, and then a 9-day gap, 10-day gap, and as of today, it's been 17 days since I've last had a problem, which compared to the start of this diary is pretty fantastic. So it's actually a really good tool to monitor your own habits and progress and see if any patterns occur, and also to have those nice moments when you realise, hey, nothing's gone wrong for a while, I'm doing pretty good right now. But also, my bad episodes used to last multiple days, sometimes even weeks, but these entries prove that I am definitely getting better at that. I was down for 2 days, but then improved while still ill, sooner than I expected. I noticed that my I can't attitude lessened, and instead of thinking I can't stand this and it hurts too much, I found myself thinking I can do these things, it might hurt but that's nothing I can't cope with and it won't be forever. Although I didn't do anything different than normal, I managed my pain very well and it didn't affect my mood at all. Sometimes I wonder if my problems were even that bad in the first place. Maybe I was just brainwashing myself into thinking they were. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that keeping a diary is actually a really good way of seeing yourself from a different perspective and using that to enjoy the times when you're doing great and spot any behavioural behavioural patterns when you're not doing so great, so that maybe you can change something and make things better in the future. You do have to commit to it. I consider giving up after pretty much every entry I wrote in the beginning because I didn't think it was going to help at all. But if you keep at it, it gives you the wonderful gift of a really comprehensive overview of everything, and it can shed new light on some things that you thought were already impossible to understand. So I would really recommend keeping a diary, whether you have depression or illness like me, if you just worry about things a lot, if you have family issues or problems at work or school, anything at all really, even if you think it's a stupid thing to worry about, because if it feels like a problem to you, it needs solving so you can get on with your life. And if you don't like the idea of writing down a lot of personal details, especially if you're worried about someone else reading it, another good way to record your progress is to get a calendar or an organiser, and at the end of each day, write down a number between 1 and 10 for how good a mood you've been in that day, 1 being awful and 10 being awesome. That way you can see how your mood peaks and troughs over a long period of time, and hopefully feel a bit better about yourself, because no matter how abnormal you might think you are, none of these normal people feel like a 10 every day. People get sad sometimes, it's just part of the human experience, so you have nothing to be ashamed of if you have a rough patch, because everyone does. Actually, I'm going to write myself a new entry. February 20th. Felt in pain this morning. Didn't give a fuck. I am amazing. I look forward to reading that later. I really hope this video helped in any way, even if it just made you realise that you're not alone in feeling down, because you really aren't. And there are ways to make your problem seem smaller, you just gotta give it a go. Note to self, diaries of a 12-year-old girls. P.S. You're an idiot. When did I write that?